Simon, I don't know about yourself, but when I tune into the darts from Ali Pali, once I start watching it, I can't stop watching it.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, it's brilliant. I mean, I grew up watching darts in the 70s, 80s with John Lowe and Eric Bristow and Jockey Wilson and Leighton Rees and all that sort of stuff. But what Barry Hearn has done with darts is remarkable in terms of a spectacle, of an event. I think it's a brilliant event. I think every Christmas it's brilliant.
Every Christmas, you're right. It's become a major fixture for us at this particular time of the year. But then again, we saw last night Cameron Menzies, the Scottish darts player, breaking down in tears during his first round match at the World Championship as he suffered a shock defeat. Menzies lost 3-1 to the world number 130, the American Leonard Gates, despite being ranked 91 places higher than him. And then our hearts went out to Menzies. He was seen crying on stage as, curiously, Gates indulged in a bit of breakdancing behind him. So what were we witnessing? And did it all become a bit of an uncomfortable watch? You mentioned Darts Supremo, Snooker Supremo, of course, one-time Boxing Supremo, Barry Hearn, and Barry joins us live. Barry, good morning. Did you find it a bit of an uncomfortable watch as far as Cameron was concerned?
Well, I mean, I felt ever so sorry for Cameron, and you both of you know about the pressures of sport, and so different people show different emotions. Cameron is a very emotional player anyway, at the best of times. I know he's got some issues in the background and there's some family issues going on at the moment. That may well have been in his mind. But I think the most important thing was, this is the World Championships. This is the thing these darts players live for. And they've got a stage and an opportunity to change their life. And that's great. But it comes with a burden, doesn't it? It comes with that. He was a big favourite to win that game, and it didn't work out for him. And emotionally, Cameron does tend to show his feelings to the world. Is it uncomfortable or is it real? And I think because it's so real, it's not uncomfortable. Clearly, look, from a mental health issue point of view, we have people within the PDPA, the Professional Darts Players Association, that reach out to the players, and they're there for advice and looking after them, which they are currently doing, I know. But it was probably a mixture of a lot of different issues rather than just a game of darts. But nevertheless, it was a match that, he really, really wanted to win. And we were party to that moment when he realised it wasn't going to happen this year.
I think you're right, Barry, when you said I think Cameron had a lot in his mind and does have a lot in his mind at the moment in terms of a family issue. And maybe that was partly to do with it. But it is a boisterous, unforgiving crowd at Ali Pali. Yeah. We love it, yes. But Cameron ran right into the brutal wall of it last night, didn't he?
Well, I mean, first off, Leonard Gates is a very good player, by the way. He's the #1 player in America, although he doesn't play the circuit regular enough to get a low enough ranking. So it perhaps wasn't as much of a surprise. But he is also a crowd favourite. Now, when you're into this type of atmosphere, you do tend to play a little bit of mind games from time to time. You get the crowd on your side. And they are vociferous. They've generally had a little sip or two of the amber nectar, and they want to get involved. And it adds more and more pressure. Unfortunately for all the darts players, they've got to get used to it, because this is what darts is about. It's a party atmosphere with a world-class sport going on at the same time. It's a unique mixture that has made us successful. So there's a price to pay for everything. And of course, Leonard Gates was in a position that everyone loves Leonard Gates. He does a little dance, he blows the kisses. When was the last time you heard a UK crowd chanting USA, USA? I thought I was at a Trump rally or something,
Yeah, it is.
And of course, that in its own way piled more pressure on Cameron Menzies. And it's, how do you get out? We've had it so many times, from Peter Mandy when they used to boo him, to Gerwyn Price when they used to boo. It's the players got to show by his darts that he can rise above that, and then it silences the crowd. But last night wasn't Cameron Menzies, and he didn't silence the crowd.
I mean, you got to be big and strong to stand up to all of that, Simon. And I think Cameron, for various reasons, wilted a bit last night.
I mean, sport is driven by emotion. And the emotion that manifests itself are both good and bad. We've seen many moments in sport. We saw Oliver McCall break down in a ring fighting Lennox Lewis years ago. We saw Paul Gascoigne break down when he realised he wasn't going to play in a World Cup semi-final, and great emotion comes to play. And of course, the narrative in this day and age is people's mental health and the obligation upon the sport. Barry has created this environment and this and repackaging of this sport, which creates a brilliant opportunity for these darts players. And with it comes some jeopardy. And Cameron got caught in the eye of the jeopardy last night. I'm sure he'll look back on it and reflect on it and ultimately gain from that experience. And of course, the underpinning observation will be from certain people, the sport owes a duty of care. If you want to be a world-class performer, performing on a world-class stage with the benefits of being in those environments, then you're going to have certain attributes. And as brutal as it may be, and as clinical as that evaluation might be, this is the nub of the matter.
Of course, Simon, I get that. But Barry, there's a boisterous crowd and a crowd that can get a bit out of hand. Now, obviously, an element last night were really pushing the limits, were they not? On breakfast this morning, they were talking about maybe how you police a crowd like that in the Ali Pali last night. But do you want to over-police it? You don't want to over-police it, do you?
The trouble is, the more you try to police it, the worse the crowd will become. So actually, it comes to a stage where respect kicks in. And trust me, that crowd last night wasn't as bad as some crowds I've seen. They can be really brutal. But as Simon says, that's the price you pay. The duty of care, which falls on us, is taken very seriously. And we have experts in that field that will help players if they need it. And a lot of players have needed it in the past. There is a price for success. And the price for success is, if you want to compete and change your life, you're going to have to develop at some stage a little bit of a crocodile skin, if you like, where you're impervious to that. And whether you can sort that out. I mean, we've seen players go when Price turned up with a big pair of earphones on one day. The more you actually try to show that you're dealing with it, the more the crowd will get at you. It's human nature. They love a baying dog, don't they? If they see someone wounded, they go for the thrill because they're creating their own spectacle. Cameron Menzies however, is strong enough to come past that. He's been through it before. He's always worn his heart on his sleeve. And what you saw last night was real television and real drama in the life of Cameron Menzies. It's a narrative that unfortunately really works for everybody, other than the player that's under the spotlight. And the challenge for him is he's got to deal with it.
Yeah. Do you ever get into a situation when the referee steps forward? I remember Russ Bray, quite a tough stance.
If for example, if there's lots of whistling on and things like that, which we don't tolerate, don't forget we have an amazing security system in Alexandra Palace. Apart from the normal security, we actually add well over 100 people ourselves, some in plain clothes, some in uniform. People are removed from the Alexandra Palace when they step over a line. But that line is quite deep because we have to be careful we don't destroy the element of crowd participation, which makes that event work. It's a very tricky borderline thing to have. But one thing I would say is if you go in front of a large crowd, vociferous crowd, and tell them to do something, it will not go your way. You have to educate, and education takes time.
Yeah,
you'll see a different atmosphere for different matches. You know, some matches are so quiet you wonder what's going on. Cameron Menzies is, of course, he's a target in a way because people know he reacts, and they want to see that. It's brutal, but it's part of the pageantry of darts, I'm afraid.
It's the price on the ticket. I would imagine that this, obviously, and Barry's alluded to it, there's other contributing factors behind aspects of what we saw from Cameron last night. And that can't really ultimately be the sport's responsibility. The sport can be facilitatory in providing some solutions. I remember having a long conversation with James Wade about the challenges he had. His predominantly was about bipolarity, but notwithstanding that, the challenges that he had in his mental well-being. Sports can offer a framework, offer support, and Barry's already alluded to that. But if you want to be in the jungle, these are the rules of engagement.
Yeah.
And the nature of this sport and the atmosphere and when we talk about hostility, you know, both Barry and I have been football club owners. We know what hostility looks like in all guises, you know. And so with the greatest will in the world, I think Cameron will be fine. And ultimately, the contributing factors may well be issues with his father, and may well be the frustration that he was getting beat in a tournament that he had high expectations of.
Yeah.
But it's all part of the drama.
It is very different, Barry, isn't it? I mean, there isn't the respect or the peace and quiet that you get at key moments in other sports, like match point and centre court at Wimbledon, or the 18th hole in the Open. I mean, you know, when it comes right down...
It changes, Jim.
Some character in a rabbit suit shouting at you.
I know, but I watched a Luke Littler match during the Grand Slam, and everyone said, it's the quietest crowd we've ever come across.
Really?
Because they were hypnotised by this young man playing darts from another planet.
Yeah.
And they gave him respect because they were.
Yeah.
It's a different when you see a wounded animal, and you know certain people will jump on that. But listen, Cameron Menzies, number one, is a really nice guy. He has got some issues that would have affected him anyway. And getting beat, as Simon just said, compounded that problem for him.
Sure.
But he's a quality player. He's had a great season. He will come back. And when he plays well and he's happy, he's a crowd favourite because he's a character. So he's going to see both sides of it.
Terrific.
You know, his career.
Barry,
he's a showman as well.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.